We've all heard the phrase, it takes a village to raise a child. But the thing that we often forget is that it also takes one to support the mother.
Well, speaking of the village, this is our podcast. I'm Nicole Harlow.
And I'm Dawn Thompson. And we're here to connect you with a village of support you need from pregnancy to parenting.
So come on this journey with us as we build your village one episode at a time.
Hey there, welcome to today's episode of Speaking of the Village. I am Dawn Thompson with my co-host Nicole Harlow today, and we have Alicia Hurtt joining us. A lot of times we start with like what the episode is about, but really, I think I'd rather that we start with you just sharing your story and how it turned into women's work, because I think that will make the idea of what the episode is about very clear.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me on your platform. As you said, my name is Alicia Hurtt. I am here in Bainbridge, Georgia. I am a mother of 4, of which I did not think I could have. So I was married to my husband very early on, 21. We were married almost 10 years and no baby. So you know how the song goes, first comes love, then comes marriage, then comes the baby. Well, we didn't have that. And I was just so frustrated. I was at the height of my career, working in management, and we've tried everything. You know how you look online and talk about time and this, put your leg this way, and I've done all of it. It didn't happen. And so out of my disappointment and grief, I confided in a coworker, and they told me about IVF. And we were living in Baltimore, Maryland at the time. And I went right into Columbia, and we went and we started in vitro treatment. We went 3 rounds. 2 of the rounds, the embryo was successfully implanted, but then the pregnancy just terminated. And so each and every time I continued to go into deep depression, having a lack of faith, just feeling like less than a woman because the thing that I'm supposed to do, I cannot do. Well, the last transfer, we had a new doctor and they had a hard time. And he started to explain to me that the opening of my lining was like the tip of a pen, which is very small. And so with insurance, you only got 3 rounds. They will only cover 3 rounds. So I had a solution. I would wait until insurance renewed, get new insurance, and try again. Well, that's what I thought. My husband said, no, we're not doing it because it tested our marriage. It broke me. I was just thinking of all kind of things to do to just be done with life because that's just where I was, the state of mind. And so we didn't do it, but I still had a yearning and a desire to be a mother. And we explored adoption. My husband's like, we're not doing it. So I went back to the doctor on my own. I said, this is where my husband stands with it. What can I do? So he did send me to a specialist. He said, because the lining was so small, I can send you to a specialist and she can open it up more to see if that will help. But there's nothing more that we can do other than in vitro. So we did that. It was an in and out procedure. Lo and behold, one day my husband said to me, we need to move back to Prince George's County where my family resides because we're going to end up having a baby. And God said, we need the support. So I was like, well, God's not talking to me. He's not granting my heart's desire. If that's what he said, we'll do it. So we moved back with my parents in PG County. And lo and behold, as we went on with life, I had to have a procedure done because they thought they saw something on my ovaries. The precursor for it was for me to have a pregnancy test. So I was just like, okay, I'm not pregnant. I can't get pregnant. Had the test. They called me back the next day. They said, Ms. Hurtt, you cannot have this procedure. I said, why? They said, because you're pregnant. I was like, say it again.
I've been waiting a long time to hear that
yes. And so I called my husband and he said, I knew it. I said, see, God just keeps talking to you. Like, this is just something, right? And so we had our baby. But even with that, she was born with the cord wrapped and she wasn't breathing. They had to resuscitate her. So I just went through a lot during my journey. And then to get to 4, we had another miscarriage before the 4th baby, but God promised me that. I had it written down. I had faith. And then we ended up having the 4th child. He's 2 now. And I got my tubes ligated. And so with that entire journey, I put it in a book because I said, what I felt, if I have any powers in these hands, right, and in this mouth, I want women to know that you're not alone, that you are empowered, you are loved, you are not less than, and I want to advocate for women. And so that's how we came up with the nonprofit I See My Baby.
That's awesome.
I love that.
Isn't it so cool? I love hearing her story and just like, I mean, I think, we all know that women of color struggle even more in this area than the average person. And so I love the fact that you're building something that they can see themselves in, right? And that they can identify with and get the support that they need. Because I think, just like in so many other areas, women of color just get left behind in these things. So I just genuinely appreciate that. But I love how much, I mean, like, if all three of us and pretty much everybody that's ever been on our podcast so far, we've all got a story that has led us to this women's work, and like, and and I always wonder about something, what does it take to have that acknowledgement? Because how many people do we see that end up in these situations and they see it as like that, well, that's just the way it is. And then others of us, we see that same situation that we endure and we're like, oh my God, this can be so much better.
Yes.
I don't know. Are those like the entrepreneurial types?
It's gotta be like personality, I'd say natal chart, zodiac, all the things that how we interpret experiences and then how we need to either process them or create a better impact for others, right? It's gotta be in our like soul.
Yeah, something. I know that's like a full-on philosophical kind of question right this minute, but like it's just something that I've wondered about. It's like, because there has to be something that there's, unfortunately there's a smaller percentage of us that do that, that are like, wait a minute, this should and could be better. This is terrible. Like, there's no reason for this to be bad. And so, I guess I want to talk about some of the things that you cover in the book. What were the major pivotal things?
Absolutely. So one, I want to talk about what you just said. I agree. It has to be built in you. I am a serial entrepreneur, but in every role, every business, I am known as a servant leader. And so I am doing just that as I'm serving women. And in the book, I have 3 concepts. I don't know if you can see it good. Yep. Envision, manifest, and believe, right? And that's how it's broken down. And I had to envision my baby, vision myself with my baby. I had to manifest it. So in the book, I talk about buying the baby clothes, where one of my coworkers said, buy those clothes, hang it up in your closet, where in someone's logical mind, they're like, that's crazy. You don't have the baby. Why are you doing that? Well, I'm manifesting that baby. I have a stronghold. I'm pulling it from the energies and saying, Lord, it's going to happen because I manifested. And then I'm going to believe it, that last part, that it's going to come true, and proving it with this word that you said your word will not return void. Like, I believe it, and I'm mustering up that faith, just as small as that mustard seed at times, right? And so I talk about that in the book. And then I talk about how it wasn't easy, where I was driving down the road and literally felt like, you know what, just open that door and be over with all this. But that's the enemy saying, because he knows what's going to happen, right? But I have to be strong in my belief, right? I have to continue to envision and be determined, and I also talk about how my husband had to show up because God had to talk to him because he wasn't talking to me. I wasn't listening. I was mad. Frankly, I was pissed. And so, like, I talk about real talk in the book because, we go through this. We really do. Like, even when Mother's Day came around and I didn't have a baby and my husband didn't buy me flowers, and he was just like, well, you're not a mother. And I was like, I'm a mother. At the time that embryo was put together, like, that's my baby, and we talk about that in the book as well, and just how God's timing is the right timing. We needed those 9 years in marriage to then be prepared to deal with what we had to encounter with our child. And like I said, with my firstborn, her being born, not breathing, and them literally taking her away from me. She didn't get put on my chest like everybody else. Right, the cord was cut, and they immediately started pushing on her chest. But how does that make you feel? And how I had to go home without my baby. So then I went right back to day one. I'm blaming myself. Like, what did I do? What could I have done different? I mean, that book is raw. It is super transparent, but it's my way of giving back to other women, because you think that you're the only one having these thoughts in your mind. You're the only one going through these changes. And I'm saying, you're not alone. You are not alone.
Alicia, I would love to know your like second, third, fourth stories as well. Did you have fertility treatments, or were they totally natural.
They
I
kept
know it's
rolling.
different.
They kept rolling. So, but there was a gap. So I had
Okay.
my first, and then like 3 or 4, then I had my other one. And I was like, what's going on? Like, what, and then my husband and I, we kind of went through some stuff. So I was like, okay, God, I can see why. But then right after my second one, the next year I had another one. So like, we call them frick and frat. People think they're twins, like one's lighter, one's dark, but they look just alike. And I'm like, no, we're just crazy like that. And then we had another gap. Then I had the miscarriage, and then my son came. So now they're 9, 6, 5, and 2. But no, they were all natural.
Awesome. I love that. The thing that you really struck me the other day in the conversation, in our pre-interview about the manifestation. You said there was another thing that you said. You were saying you're buying baby clothes, and you just kept saying, I think you said something about like, well, my baby's coming, and when it gets here, you were just like, I'm going to do all these things.
Yes.
When my baby's here, I'm doing this. And like, as soon as my baby gets here, it was just like you're saying, matter of fact. Honestly, this is, again, we're going to go take a left turn in the woo-woo world, but I am neurodivergent. I think I'm coming around to the fact that I might be autistic. There's all the tests that say so, but I'm not sure I want to identify that. But anyways, the point is that I forgot the point, actually.
It's
Menopause.
okay. So my sister-in-law, she reminds me of that. I used to say to her, I want so many kids, that I'm like the little woman that was lifting the shoes. She had so many kids, she didn't know what to do. And so when I'm fussing about these kids in my house, right, that I envision, manifest, and believe, she's like, you remember when you said you want to be like that one? Was like, and I'm like, yeah. I'm like,
I don't want to manifest that much. But that's it. I think that I never really, I got back to my point, but I never really understood manifesting that way. For whatever reason, the way you described it that day absolutely clicked. And I was like, oh, that's what people say. Like, you got to live it. You got to believe it. You've got to speak it into existence.
Absolutely.
I don't know that I could ever really grasp it for some reason. And then when you said that the other day, I was like, but I do that all the time. So if I know we could be manifesting great births and all of that stuff. So I think that it's a relevant conversation. But like, I just would say, I just started thinking about how my best friend, she's coming. I'm so excited to see my best friend. She's coming next Friday. I do that when I know she's actually coming. But if you're manifesting, it's the exact same thing.
Yeah, and there's a detachment part to it, right? Like, if you are trying to manifest something and you are so like attached, there's resistance there because you're afraid. Almost, it's a fear-based thing. But if you manifest, speak it to into existence, and just detach, like let it go, know, and have that faith, like Alicia was saying, that's when it's like, I've manifested so many things, some of my children as well. Actually, Alicia, hearing your story, and you had the pre-interview with Dawn, so this is the first time I heard it too. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many similarities. I don't think I've actually ever really told my fertility journey on this podcast yet, but me and my husband tried for about 14 months. So it wasn't very long, but still, it was a bad guessing game that we were playing. And I went through IUI cycles, so not IVF, but my period came, I was spotting through my second cycle, and I took a test and it was negative. And later that day, my sister, who's 3 years younger than me, wasn't in a relationship, calls me and says, I'm pregnant. And she was pregnant, and obviously unplanned. And I was like, okay. And immediately my focus switched to her, like, oh my gosh, how can I support you? You have to tell dad, you had to tell the father. Like, she had all these obstacles going forward with her. And then sorry, she had all these obstacles. So my attention went right to her. It didn't matter that I wasn't pregnant. It was, she had this whole big thing she had to go through. And then 2 days later, I go to the doctors to start my next cycle, and they call me later that night, and she's like, you're pregnant. I was so super early that it wasn't detectable on like a P test at home, but obviously they drew blood for my next levels. And in my opinion, if I would have found out I was pregnant and then my sister told me she was pregnant, I probably would have felt some type of way about it. And because it happened the way it did, then when I found out I was pregnant, I was so grateful and I was so excited that then we were pregnant together. We had due dates 2 weeks apart, where again, if flip side, I would have found out I was pregnant and then she would have been like, oh, me too. I would have been like, come on, like this is, I'm married. This is my,
my time to shine.
Yeah, my time, And yeah, so it wound up being a beautiful journey together. And actually, me and her were pregnant together with our first and our last. So she just had a baby in March of this year, and my youngest just turned 1 in January. So we were able to kind of have that journey together. But same as well as you is I never planned on having 4 kids, but they just kept coming after that first time. And I wouldn't change it for the world now, but I have a 7, 4, 2, and 1-year-old. So we're very similar in that way, which I was like, as you're talking, I'm like, oh my gosh, so aligned. But it's true, and that I just wanted to kind of share that, because if you're listening, there's not just one person here that you could relate to. Like, here's an example of 2 people that have very similar situation. And Dawn, I know you also had some infertility issues after your first 2. Yeah. So if you're listening and you're someone who's struggling with either that primary infertility or secondary infertility, even if you had, a baby already, I think the points that Alicia is making is so important about really envision what you want, see that baby, connect with that baby, manifest it, believe it's happening. It all starts like we are energetic beings. We're a vibration, right? So we're emitting those vibrations every single day, every single moment of the day. Our thoughts, our emotions, our feelings, all of the things vibrate. What we're speaking, our words are so powerful. It's really, really important that if you're in that state of longing for this baby, again, another thing Alicia said, it's hard to not slip into that depression, to not completely be attached to having that baby. And you hear this all the time, so many stories of, oh, we finally stopped trying and then I got pregnant, or we adopted and then I got pregnant, or it's because you're able to detach from that result that you're clinging so hard onto. And listen, like Dawn's like, I'm type A, like very hard to detach from uncertainty. Motherhood has taught me how to do that in the last 8 years. But when I was going through this, I was 25 years old, climbing a corporate ladder, not in the same space that I am now. It was so rigid. I had spreadsheets about literally everything, my cycle and our budget and this and that. And had to make sure we had a certain amount of money in the bank. I was so type A rigid, going through fertility treatment and trying to get pregnant. Of course I didn't right away, because you were just so in that space. So,
high cortisol.
Yeah, 100%. So I think it's totally hard to catch yourself in the moment, but if this is your sign as you're listening,
right.
And you're not alone. There's so many support options, for you.
So Alicia, where have you seen the gaps in your community? I know that's why you started your center and all that stuff. What is it, the things that you offer at your spot, and where are the gaps that you feel like you're addressing in your
So this whole move was divinely orchestrated, but what we have here is not just my organization supporting women. We have an organization that supports women that have gone through domestic abuse. And then we have one that women are pregnant, maybe out of a circumstance of, just all types of situations. And they're just not sure what to do. And so everyone is seeking refuge when they come to us. And what we found is the education, right? So having a doula, having an advocate, helping you understand, because there's a high population of teen pregnancy here. What is your body like? Let's talk about your anatomy. Let's talk about what's happening, your hormones, just breaking it down from 101 all the way to, all right, you're about to have a baby, you're about to become a mother. And then we've taken it a step further, where now we provide men's support services, because like I said with my husband, when I lost that baby, he didn't understand that it was a baby. And so now we have a man here, his name is Mr. Reeves, and they're saying we need the support system, because we need you to be educated. We need you to be strong. We need your mental capacity straight, because if you're straight, then you can show up for the mom. You can show up for the mom to be. And then we still stay with you after you have the baby. We do that yoni steaming, because of course, physically we want you to get back, but mentally we need you to get back. Postpartum is real. I went back into the hospital and I almost died with post-eclampsia, not even knowing the symptom. Thank God for my doctor saying that headache is not just going to be a headache that I'm
Normal.
going to take you home with, right?
Yeah.
So educating them, staying with them. We have more than myself, more doulas here for our caseload. And then every month we sit down and we say, all right, who have you touched? To make sure that everyone has a robust program for them. So we have something for the whole family here at our wellness center.
I love the fact that, no, I mean, who did you touch? I think that's not who did you help, not who did you serve, whatever, but who did you touch? I love that, actually. It's such a cool, like, I mean, just that energy, that carries a lot of energy. That sounds pretty awesome, actually. Like, I imagine being in a meeting like that and somebody saying, okay, who'd you touch today? You know, or this week or this month. Yeah, it's good. Anyways, but what do you feel like is in this journey of the clients that you serve in your space? What do you feel like is the biggest thing that that's lacking, why they need to come to you?
Salvation, because that was my key. And that can mean something different. And I'm not just talking to religion. My mom always told me it's your relationship. I've been in so many religions, Catholic, Baptist, Methodist, Pentecostal, all that, right? Non-denominational. But my mom, rest her soul, she will always reassure me that it is your relationship with God. It is your relationship with your higher power, however you want to say it. And that would have helped me. And that helped me through my entire journey, envisioning, manifesting, and believing. Because if my faith is strong and if my higher power is telling me, okay, you need to seek guidance, you need someone else, right? Then that's where that mental practitioner comes in, right? Or he'll send people to you with answers or with confirmation. And you're like, how'd you come to me with this? And it's the energy. It's what I needed at that moment. So I would definitely say salvation is the key. And that's what we built in to our program. It's called the Power of Devotion. And so even though we're not a church or what have you, but we're spiritual beings and we know what the power of salvation will do for any circumstance that woman hits that threshold, this door, salvation is going to help her through it. It is.
For sure. I love that. Well, what do you think is, what do you want to do? Like, as far as like, do you feel like you're doing all the things, or is there more things? Because I have a feeling
I'm not doing it now. I want to do everything. And so I just had a meeting with one of my mentors and she was like, Alicia, you can't do everything. I was like, why can't I do everything? But this is our flagship. This is the first model here in Bainbridge. I just did an event this weekend and I heard about other areas like Albany and Thomasville and Donaldsonville. And I said, well, listen, if there's a need, we can assess it and we can come there. Now, we don't have to set up shop right away, but we can set it up where once a month, if you have a community center or a church, that we can meet our clients there, hold classes, we can do that. But the goal, the vision, the aspiration is to have a center similar to this wherever there is a need, wherever there's disparity, wherever there's a lack of hope, we want to be there as a solution.
Yeah. And how many clients are you usually serving right now for your nonprofit currently?
So we just opened up in January and we've already had over 50 clients as our caseload. And that doesn't include the spouse, because remember, we're touching the spouse.
Yes.
That's just the initial person on the caseload. So I'm excited.
I love it. Are you tracking data by chance?
Yes, because
Okay,
as a nonprofit, we need data to say we need more things so we can help more people.
Okay, just making sure. I just saw, like, there's so many people. I mean, I've learned so much in running a nonprofit and then now running a business at this, and I had a brick and mortar when I was in my teens, and I've learned a whole heck of a lot about things. I joke it's the school of hard knocks. Like, who needed an MBA in business when you could just get your ass kicked doing it one day, like just doing it every day. You just believe me, you learn the lessons just fine. It's called the school of hard knocks, right?
I feel like I need another session with you, Dawn, after this.
Why? What do you mean?
You have so much wisdom, because I'm learning it now. And I have the MBA, but it didn't prepare me for this. But God is good.
So true. No, it's so true. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I feel like the older I get, the more reflective I am just about, like, and I'm just naturally inquisitive about, like, how processes work and, like, understanding thought processes and all of those things. And so I don't know. I think it's just probably my tism. Probably my tism, actually.
Yeah.
But it's, whatever. Maybe it's my superpower. I don't know. But I'm just curious, I guess. Thank you, though. That was very kind. I feel like I'm a little bit all over the place today, but
I'm catching it. You got it. I'm catching
but
it.
I don't know. Well, I think just that, this triggered me the other day when you and I did our pre-interview. I'm telling you how you said about the manifesting thing. And I know like this is not meant to be a session on manifesting, but I feel like I can't help myself right now. When you're talking about the way that your shirt is, envision, manifest, and believe. And it's like, I don't know that we come at a lot of these things that way. You know what I mean? And so I think it's just making me kind of process it differently a little bit right this minute. And I'm just letting it flow because this is all it is. And maybe somebody else is feeling the exact same way. Maybe somebody else is going, well, holy shit balls. I've been just going to the doctors and just reading all the books and going on TikTok. And like, instead of doing more within.
That's right.
Right. And getting right within. And I don't think that that's just about giving birth or getting pregnant. I think that like we're at this space in life as women. There's something massive happening in the collective of women. And I think we all feel it and nobody's really saying it out loud.
Yeah. We're holding it and we need to release. This is the
Yeah.
year of release. So we do an annual retreat and that is our theme for the year, to release. We have a lot that we're holding right there in our womb as women and we just need to release it.
Dude.
Yeah.
Can you imagine for a second? I mean, if I can just think about the power that I feel, especially as I'm getting older, can you imagine if all of us were having that? I can envision how I feel. And so what does that look like for, the other women out there who, if you put that all together, if there's other women who feel this way, which is what you're saying. But anyways, there's something changing and shifting. And I think it's going to be really, really good for women. And I think we're really starting to understand that we need each other in every facet of our lives. When you're going through fertility, when you're going through pregnancy, when you're having a new baby, when you're going through perimenopause, when you're mothering toddlers, we need each other. And like, that's what this Speaking of the Village is about. And it's like, it doesn't have to be some woo-woo thing, speaking of the village or manifesting. You don't have to believe in that, but you have to just check in, because I guarantee you are seeking friendship. We're all seeking friendship in some way every day, right? We're seeking it every day in some way. And if you could just identify that in the fact that it's because you need help. It's because we all need help, whether it's verbal or true assistance or just somebody to give us a second that's different than the rest, right? Anyways, sorry.
This is
going
good.
off.
This is
It is or not. I don't know if it is or not, but maybe we've just, I don't know. But is this crazy? Am I talking like, are you all on the other side going, she's lost her mind? Okay.
No, I'm far out. I love energy and spiritual talk. So you're right where I want you to be.
I don't even know where it's coming from though. Like I'm having this like very deep moment. It's like I'm on mushrooms or something, but I'm not.
Spirit speaks through you. Spirit speaks through you when people need to hear, certain things. Like I was clearly speaking on mute for the last 5 minutes. Sorry. I was like agreeing and like so hyped about this as you were talking and trying to give you validation, and I realized I was on mute. So it was all for a reason, because I think you just needed to like have this channel where you were coming through.
I don't even know, you guys. I literally feel like that came from
came from your womb.
No,
you have 2 people on here that clearly have that channel open. And like, again, I don't know if I've talked about this before on here, but I have a modality called womb light, and it's all about energy work, and you're connecting to your body and that sacral chakra and all the things that women hold in their sacral chakra, fear and shame and guilt. And especially as the collective, like you were saying, that's when I started trying to like talk and validate the collective, like 100%, we are feeling it. And I think women are starting to say it out loud. We are starting to come out and come together. And I think that's why communities like the PRC and like centers like Alicia's and the work that we're doing, and even virtually like you, Dawn, like it's all coming together now because it's so needed, and we're all hearing the calling, and the calling's coming from our womb space. Like That's where it's coming from. So if you're listening and you're like, these woo-woo bitches, but it's not. And listen, I don't think it honestly, like, yeah, you call it woo-woo, call it spiritual, call it whatever you want. It's in our bodies. Like, I talk about this all the time. Like, when you're pregnant, you have a natural consciousness, a life force that is within you that we need to remind ourselves, like, we're not waking up every day and consciously saying, I'm going to do this today, right? Like, I'm going to grow a foot. No, we're not doing that. Our bodies are just innately, intuitively, and naturally, consciously growing this baby without any of our brain, conscious brain doing anything. The same thing comes with the work that we do, right? Like I say, the mantra for womb light is, if a woman holds the power to create life, she holds the power to create the life she wants. Because if we can transfer that consciousness, that trust in our body to creating the life, the career, the relationship, the health journey, and fill in the blank here, we have the power. It's within us. And I'm someone who believes in the universe, believes in a higher power, believes in a soul. I don't use a specific name for that. But if you do, it doesn't matter what you call it. It's the same. It's transient through it all. And that's, I think, where women are connecting to more so nowadays. And that's where the call is coming from. I actually if you think about Frozen 2, if anyone watches Frozen 2. Again, if you're a mom, and have been in the last couple of years, you've watched it on repeat.
Watched it 25 times.
I was pregnant with one of my kids, and it was on it. Elsa gets this internal call. It's a siren. It's a sound of she's this calling to her. And it winds up that, hey, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched Frozen 2, I don't want to ruin anyone's life. But it turns out it's her. She's what she needs. She's the answer to the calling. She's this fifth element of whatever the case is. And I think, again, I was pregnant with Owen or Jenna at the time. I think it was Owen. And it was so symbolic to me that the answers are within me. Yeah, that pregnancy was I've definitely talked about that on this podcast. I had to be the difficult child, quote unquote, and really hone in on my body and listen to my intuition and question the doctors to get the birth that I wanted, because they were trying to risk me out for a C-section. So it was just all very kismet and synchronistic, but it's that calling within you. So I know this episode took a turn, but I think it's so important. I would literally talk about this stuff all day long, and I'm so glad that we're able to bring this to this podcast, because it's an integral piece of any woman's journey in birthing, in motherhood, is really connecting to yourself in this way that, yes, it's your body, right? We talk about I talk about all the time, we're programmed to be floating heads, and I love saying that when I'm on Zoom, because we are literally floating heads on Zoom. But we're programmed to be that, to disconnect from our body. So if we can reconnect to our body and then reconnect to the energy and the life force that's flowing through our bodies, no one can freaking stop us in any capacity. It's really remembering your power. So I'm going to stop there.
No, I mean, I think, it really, we're having this conversation as if it doesn't impact this certain part of life, but the reality is it impacts every part of your life. And whether you're listening to this right now because you're pregnant, early pregnant, or because you just lost a baby and someone sent you here, or you're just sitting there with cracked, bleeding nipples trying to breastfeed a crying baby right now. It's or you have a toddler and you're pregnant, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you are. It's that it's there and we all need it. And so I think just acknowledging that we need it, and acknowledging that we keep going on social media looking for support. That's what we're doing, really, is you're going to social media and you're looking for support. But all you get is, what Krista Dancy says is, you only get information when you go to the internet. But everyone's looking for support. And now we've been without support for so long that now we're just kind of coming back out of it oh, shoot. This social media isn't the thing. It's not getting me what I need, and I'm worse than ever before. So that happens in every aspect of our lives, and not just during pregnancy.
Yeah.
I think we could probably end on that note, huh?
I mean, I absolutely love this episode, and I think, like I said, we can talk for hours on it. But yeah, I wanna end where it's strong, and I want to invite everyone who is listening to really just sit with yourself for the next few minutes and like maybe put your hand on your womb space, maybe one on your heart, and just take a few deep breaths and like imagine and visualize that beautiful air going into your womb space, filling it up, connecting to your body, and just sitting in that silence for even just 60 seconds. But if you can go a little bit longer, 10 minutes or so, and just give that time and space to yourself, I think that would be a really great use of your time. Unless you're driving. If you're driving, do not do that. This trying to be safe there, when you get home, or just before you go to bed tonight or anything like that. Just if you can get into a routine to do that, it is life changing.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for doing that, Nicole. That was a perfect spot for that. Appreciate you. And can you guys hear that? I have a gardener like 4 feet from me right now.
No.
Anyways, so I was just like, great. Anyways, well, Alicia, that was incredible episode. Thank you so much for coming. I guess the thing we need to ask, that we ask every guest, is, speaking of the village, who's the one person that you think is the most critical in a woman's village or a couple's village?
I want to say your person. And the reason why I'm going to respond that way is because everyone will look at it differently. So for me, that person was split into two. It was my mom and my husband. But for you, it may not be anyone around you. It may be you coming to me, Alicia, your doula, and saying, hey, you're my person. So I would say your person where when you're not your best or they see something off, that they speak up and get you the care that you need. Your person that is able to be truthful with you when you probably don't want to hear it, right? Or your person, the one that has the right words at the right time, and you're like, ooh, you're my person, right? So that would be my answer. Your person, whether professional, whether you're a mentor, whether your spouse, whether your mother, your person is who you need on your team.
That's great. I think that's perfect. Well, thank you all. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. We will put all the good stuff in the show notes. Alicia, I'd like, if you have a link for donations, since you're a nonprofit organization, if you're interested in donating, we'll have a link in the show notes for you to donate to Alicia's program and learn more about it. So thank you so much. We appreciate you. Have a great day. Hey, thanks for joining us on Speaking of the Village. If you love today's episode, make sure to hit subscribe and share it with a friend.
And remember, you're not alone. We're here, we're listening, and we're all in this together, because in our village, no mom walks alone.